Hare Krishna, everyone, and a warm welcome back once again to our lecture series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we're continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 98. We're still speaking on the first of the four of Krishna's transcendental qualities that distinguish him from Lord Narayan, namely that he is a performer of wonderful pastimes, especially his childhood pastimes, Bala-lila. I was thinking that regular hearing of such pastimes is really essential for our progress in Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada made this very clear in the beginning of our movement. In Krishna book, chapter 90, he wrote, "The transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, are so powerful that simply by hearing, reading, and memorizing this book, Krishna, one is sure to be transferred to the spiritual world, which is ordinarily very difficult to achieve." He continues, "The description of the pastimes of Lord Krishna are so attractive that automatically they give us an impetus to study repeatedly, and the more we study the pastimes of the Lord, the more we become attached to him. This very attachment to Krishna makes one eligible to be transferred to his abode, Goloka Vrindavan." All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And this refers actually to all of Krishna's pastimes. They're all equally potent and purifying. Of course, someone may think that Krishna's, you could say, teenage pastimes might be more potent or more powerful than his pastimes as an infant. But no. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita 3:7, verse 124, Srila Sanatana Goswami, he says very clearly, "Thus Krishna displayed his supreme powers even in his childhood pastimes. In these pastimes, Krishna demonstrates the greatness of the Supreme Being even more convincingly than in God's typical activities like creation. In these childhood pastimes, Krishna shows his power to enchant the entire world with his sweetness." In these childhood pastimes, Krishna shows his power to enchant the entire world with his sweetness. And we'll be discussing these pastimes very soon, all of us, in our different temples around the world, because Kartik's coming, the month of Damodar. So, we should immerse ourselves in hearing and chanting, especially now these childhood pastimes of Krishna. I was reading in Hari Bhakti Vilas, volume 4, it's the 15th Vilas, it's verse 537. Sanatana Goswami, while discussing how we should observe Janmashtami, he writes, "Thereafter, Krishna's name-giving ceremony should be performed, and his childhood pastimes should be joyfully narrated on Janmashtami. Then he writes, the spiritual master should be invited and requested to speak about Krishna's childhood pastimes. There should be singing, dancing, and the playing of musical instruments. In this way, through the entire night, one should proceed." And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Sarata Dharshani Tika, meaning commentary, on Canto 10, Chapter 6, verse 44, he writes as follows, "Any person who hears with faith and devotion about how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Putana, and who thus invests his hearing in such childhood pastimes of Krishna certainly attains attachment for Govinda, the Supreme Original Person. Now, as we explained in our last lecture, Krishna's childhood pastimes were mainly enjoyed by the elder gopis of Vrindavan. Elder doesn't necessarily mean, someone in their 80s or 90s, but, mothers in their 20s and 30s. So Krishna's childhood pastimes were mainly enjoyed by the older gopis of Vrindavan, beginning with, of course, Mother Yashoda. Without a doubt, she alone exemplifies the mood of Vatsalya Ras, loving Krishna as a small child. There's a famous verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.20. Nemam virinjo na bhavo nashir apyanga samshraya prasadam libir gopi yattat papa vimuktitat. Very famous. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who was always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. But at the same time, all the older gopis were, you could say, are, in this mood of Vatsalya Rasa, loving Krishna as in motherhood. And thus, they all participated in Krishna's early childhood pastimes, during which, acting as an ordinary child, Krishna was often naughty. Srila Rupa Goswami writes as such in Padyavali, verse 143. You've got the essence here. He writes, awakened at daybreak by the sounds of yogurt churning, with silent steps, child Krishna stealthily entered the gopis' homes, extinguished the lamps with his lotus breath, and stole a handful of butter. I pray child Krishna may protect me. So, as a result of Krishna's naughty pastimes, transcendentally naughty pastimes of stealing butter, as we all know, because we've heard these pastimes many times, and we should hear them many more times, these elder gopis would regularly complain to Mother Yashoda. Now, Garga Samhita, Canto 1, Chapter 17, discusses this in detail. It says that one day Upananda's wife, Pravati, Upananda is actually the elder brother of Nanda Maharaj, she came to make a complaint to Mother Yashoda. She said, "Oh Devi, we are so close to one another that we see no difference between each other's possessions. My stock of butter, ghee, milk, and yogurt is yours, and I take it that yours is mine. Nevertheless, your son, to learn right from wrong, must also learn how to discriminate between his house and that of others. In one way or another, this boy has become chor. He's become a thief. And when I tried to correct him, he talks back to me and runs away. He comes to my house to steal butter. I try to talk to him and he just runs away. As his mother, it is your duty to teach him to respect other people's property. He is, after all, the son of Braja's king. If he steals, all the boys of his age will also follow his bad example." Mother Yashoda, even now they accompany him wherever he goes and joins in his mischief. Please, Maya, do something, and appeal to Mother Yashoda. So in response, Yashoda said, I just can't understand. My warehouse is overflowing with butter. Still, my son rarely eats butter or yogurt here in my house. Now I understand why. He is eating in the homes of others. O Honorable One, Next time my Krishna steals from your home, catch him. Catch him. Bring him here to me, with butter still on his chubby face. And I will teach him a lesson he won't forget. In the meantime, please forgive his offenses, and let there be no ill will between us and our families. So Pravati Devi, it's described, delighted to hear Mother Yasoda's words of reassurance, went home in a happy mood, where she eagerly awaited for Krishna to set foot in her house again, so she could catch him. It's all Leela. And it wasn't long before Krishna had, how could you say, finished his rounds in Gokula's storehouses. You know, he has his rounds of going to all these different houses. And Upananda's home was next in line to serve, as the acharyas say, how did they put it? The arena for the cowherd boys' daily sacrifices to the Supreme Lord. The arena for the cowherd boys' daily sacrifices to the Supreme Lord. In that sacrifice, they say, Prabhupati's butter would be the oblations, Krishna, the head priest, the cowherd boys' mouths, the sacrificial fire, and the village monkeys, the beneficiaries of the Gopas' charity, the cowherd boys' charity. So beautifully put. So then quietly, stealthily, actually the word is used, stealthily, making their way from one grove of trees to another, Krishna and his friends scaled the outer wall of Upananda's house, quietly dropped into the inner courtyard, and ran to the storeroom where all the milk products were stored. But it's described at that point, the boys were surprised and disappointed when they saw that all the milk and the butter and the yogurt were suspended from the ceiling out of their reach, hanging from the ceiling, out of their reach. But when some of the gopas, turned to leave, well, we can't get it, so they turned to leave. Krishna whispered, "Stay, stay," and he quickly constructed, a makeshift platform by piling together a crate, a footstool, and a grinding mortar, if my memory serves me right. A crate, a footstool, and a grinding mortar. Kind of a wobbly platform, but anyway. But when he climbed up on top of it, with the help of his friends, the milk products were still too far away. But just as Krishna was about to give up and climb down, Subal handed him a stick. So Krishna used the stick to poke the clay pot until it broke, spilling freshly churned butter all over himself and onto the floor. And scooping up the nectar, this is nectar, Amrit, the boys and their, monkey friends, they're accompanied by their monkey friends, greedily stuffed it into their mouths, while, how's it described, softly giggling to themselves and complimenting Krishna for his cleverness. "Oh, Krishna, you are so clever, you poked." But the plot thickens. Then suddenly, Prabhavati, Mataji, arrived. And seeing her in the doorway, also with a stick in hand, one boy shouted, "Quick, run, we're all caught." And all the boys started running around the storeroom. Actually, it's described in a panic. Here, there, everywhere. How do we get out? Some even ran right past Prabhavati and her menacing stick. But unfortunately, Krishna couldn't get past his aunt because she's Krishna's aunt. And by Yogamaya's design, despite his superior agility, Prabhavati was able or allowed to catch Krishna and hold on to his wrist while he was wriggling and trying to get away, calling for help. And abandoned by his friends, he was held captive by his determined aunt. And as a result, he he shed, it's described, false tears, like crocodile tears. The acharyas say, filled the trail he made by dragging his feet as Pravati pushed and pulled him back to Nanda Maharaja's palace. And by the time the two of them arrived at Nandagram, Krishna was really scared. Because remember, Yasoda said, bring him here, Pravati. If you catch him, if you can catch him, bring him here. So by this time, Krishna was really scared. He thought, mother will be angry and punish me with a stick. So, the plot thickens even more, Brajalila. He used the edge of Prabhavati's sari to cover his head in shame. But as soon as clever Krishna heard his mother's voice, he manifested a portion of his mystic potency. That's how it's described. He manifested a portion of his mystic potency. He's the master of all mystics. And transformed himself into Prabhavati's son, whose name was Kandava. He just did a switch, changed himself, quote unquote, into Prabhavati's son, Kandava. And keeping his head covered with her garment, while keeping his head covered by her garment. So approaching Mother Yasoda, Prabhavati, who didn't know what was going on, said, Mother Yasoda, this rascal son of yours again broke into my house, shattered a pot of butter, and ate the contents with his friends and all those monkeys. So ashamed of her naughty son, Yashoda Devi replied, Dearest Prabhavati, remove your garment from his face. I have every intention to banish this mischievous boy from my house forever. Strong words. But when Prabhavati removed the cloth from Krishna's face, she was shocked to see her own son, Kandava, standing by her side. Like, whoa, what happened? So at this point, Yashoda just laughed, wondering what this drama could be all about. She's supposed to bring, my son, but this is her son. So Prabhavati, she had no explanation. For a moment, it's described, she just stood there speechless. As Mother Yasoda said, Devi, this is not my son, but yours. Why have you unjustly accused my boy and played this trick on me? So confused, Prabhavati pulled her, quote-unquote, son's arms and shaking him, she said, my dear son, how did you change places with the son of Braja's queen? And why? Tell me, or I will punish you. But Kandava, quote-unquote, just looked silently at the ground as if humiliated by his mother's conduct. So having no other recourse, Prabhavati left Nanda Maharaja's palace, bewildered, towing her son along with her. After she and her son, Kandava, had departed, it's described Yasoda, Rohini, Nanda Maharaj, and Balaram, they all started laughing, saying, this attempt to besmear the good name of Krishna was foiled by his own purity. This attempt to besmear the good name of Krishna was foiled by his own purity. Meanwhile, on the way back to Upananda's house, Krishna, how could you say, he abandoned his disguise as Kandava, and he suddenly appeared like that to Prabhavati in his original transcendental form. So seeing Krishna before her, Prabhavati let go of his hand in amazement. Then it's described that Krishna, the word used is wagged, like this, wagged his forefinger at her, and he said, Auntie, if you try to take me to my mother again, instead of taking on the form of your son, I will take on the form of your good husband and you will be discredited as the mad woman of Gokula. I'll take on the form of your husband, and you will be discredited as the mad woman of Gokula. So wide-eyed and speechless, Pravati wondered, what kind of mystic power does this little boy have, and where has it come from? And fearing that he could make good on his threat, from that point on, she stopped trying to catch him. Whenever he came to her house to steal butter, she just stood by. And gradually the word spread throughout Vrindavan. If Krishna was ever caught stealing butter, be aware that he would use magic to escape punishment by embarrassing anyone who tried to bring him to justice. So it was already known that he had killed, powerful demons. Thus, out of fear of being humiliated, all these elderly gopis stopped trying to catch him in his butter-stealing pastimes. Thus, having instilled this fear into the hearts of the elderly gopis, Krishna and his coward friends, it's described, started to steal butter, milk and yogurt with impunity. So in these and other ways, Krishna spent his childhood in Gokula. It's described in great happiness. Hare Krishna. So let us conclude today with a final verse from our beloved Srila Rupa Goswami, again from his Padyavali. It's verse 14, short but sweet. He writes, seeing a pot of butter in the distance, baby Keshava quickly crawled there, anxiously turning his face out of fear of his mother. I worship these childhood pastimes of the Lord, as do we, following in your footsteps, Srila Rupa Goswami. Hare Krishna. So that's the end today, helping you prepare for the upcoming month of Kartik. We'll continue next week in our discussions of these 4 transcendental qualities of Krishna that distinguish him from Lord Narayan. Thank you, Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada. Shishi Gaur Nitai ki, Shishi Krishna Balaram ki, Shishi Radhashyama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna ki, Nitai Gaur Pimanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Shyam.